Good morning, California. This is News with Vince. Good morning. I'm your host, Vince Gervasi. Grab yourself a cup of mud and sit back and enjoy this wonderful critique of what's going on in our society today. All right, at Cal Matters, dated December 23rd, so it's a little old, just before the Christmas holiday, but how apropos. Why Amazon and Starbucks workers are striking now and what it means for labor under Trump. Striking Amazon and Starbucks workers are on picket lines instead of delivering last-minute presents or handing customers Christmas-themed drinks as their unions pressure the companies during the holidays and before a less union-friendly president is sworn into office. Wonder if there's any type of political leanings there. While unions are highly politicized, they contribute a lot of money to politicians and whatnot, especially here in California. The workers accuse their employers of refusing to recognize their unions or to bargain in good faith. They have been organized for more than 4 years, but have yet to land a contract. Some have filed complaints with the National Labor Relations Board alleging union busting behavior by the companies, including coercion, threats, discipline, firings. Amazon and Starbucks have also filed complaints against the unions, accusing them of coercion, violence, and illegal strikes. Soon the board will likely be less sympathetic to unions after the Senate early this month failed to extend the term of then chairperson Lauren McFerrin. The five-member board had 3 Democratic members, including McFerrin. President-elect Donald Trump will have the chance to appoint 2 more Republicans. The Trump NLRB, the first time around, was the most right-wing anti-labor NLRB, and put a pin in that because that's just absolute dog shit. Trump being a builder himself, a man who's built many buildings, most likely is not anti-labor. So you got to take some of these accusations, some of these quotes with a grain of salt. So, anyways, moving on. The Trump NLRB, the first time around, was the most right-wing anti-labor NLRB in the entire nearly 90-year history of the board, said William Gould, a former chairperson of the National Labor Relations Board during President Bill Clinton's administration and a professor emeritus at Stanford University. Also, take that with a grain of salt. Very left-leaning, very woke university. They no longer produce the students of yesteryear. They produce a lot of entitled socialists and Marxists. Gould said he doesn't remember any board so eager and activist to reverse that had gone on before. Because of that, he expects that most of the Biden board has done will be overturned by a Trump board, he said. Most of what the Biden board has done will be overturned by the Trump board. Here you go. Well, there's that quote right there. Carolyn Levitt, a spokesperson for the Trump transition team, did not respond to specific questions about the board. In an email, she instead described that President-elect has a champion for workers. All right, so that's the other side. I just mentioned it. Having been a builder and having to deal with pulling permits and all that in Atlanta and New York and all these different states that he's built his towers in, I don't see him being he needs people to build buildings. Not respond to the specific questions about the board in an email. She instead described the president-elect as a champion for workers. He's 75% of the the country responded. Basically, it was a complete red wave. He obviously relates to the common working man. The working men and women of America have been left behind, which is why President Trump and Republicans saw historic support from working class voters. Oh, hey, that sounds familiar. President Trump will keep his promise to the hardworking men and women of America by bringing jobs back home, restoring American manufacturers, and slashing inflation and cutting taxes. It would be great if the IRS disappeared. That'd be cool. An analysis of Trump's policies by the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation found his proposed tax cuts would disproportionately benefit higher income taxpayers, while again, take all of this with a grain of salt. because most of the higher earning tax providers, the people who pay the majority of the taxes of the country, top probably, I'm going to go with the top 10% of the company. It's classic bell curve, right? Who contribute to society and who doesn't. Anyways, so the top 1% or 10%, sorry, I misspoke. 10%, are the companies, the corporations, or whatnot that are still continuing to work under these extremely ridiculous circumstances and tax circumstances. And if they get a tax break, then more than likely they'll probably end up hiring more people, which puts money in the common person's hands. While his planned tariffs would fall hardest on the middle of the working class. This is complete bullshit, too. Take this with a grain of salt as well. Tariffs are a negotiating tactic. And always, this is a left leaning rag, by the way, so I'm reading it. So definitely take everything that you read, even in the right leaning media, with a grain of salt, because there's a lot more to it under the hood. And I guess that's why I'm here, because I'm trying to figure it out myself and trying to explain it and think my thinking process as we go through this. Labor leaders said a reversal of Biden era labor board decisions does not bode well for their unionizing efforts. Again, union. Many of them started in California. Oh, hey, the left coast, California, right? This is where a lot this is where Californians really need to pull their heads out of their asses and try to figure out, like, which legislatures are very much socialized, Marxist, and left leaning. That way we could get rid of these guys. At some point in time, I'm going to do a little expose on all our legislatures and find out where their money is actually coming from. And maybe we can, expose some of their hypocrisy and their stupidity, because, they're getting their pockets lined, but yet everybody else, we had just recently Party City closed their doors. I believe there was one other company that was closing their doors, leaving a lot of California working class Californians holding the bag and basically being unemployed, right? Anyways, I digress. Let's keep going. Though they added that they do not expect workers and unions to quit trying. Of course not, because they're getting fat paychecks, right? California unions are preparing to ask state legislator. There we go again. They're asking. How do you think they're gonna ask? They're probably gonna dish out a nice little fund for his presidential campaign. Toughen up the state's own policies as insurance. Again, anytime the state introduces new policies, it usually ends up meaning that the taxpayer is going to get the shit end of the stick. Just think about this, right? And then most of the time, these people who are getting, and I'll prove my point here later on, but most of the time, the people who are in these unions, right? And again, we're gonna pull some of the veil across and see what's going on, but what I'm getting at is most of these people who end up fighting are the ones that are going to get the shit under the stick as well. So toughen up state owned policies as insurance against potentially weaker federal rules. The California Labor Federation plans to revive a long shot bill Newsom vetoed last year that would have allowed workers to receive unemployment benefits if they strike. They also will push state lawmakers to protect private sector unionization. Again, socialization is what you should call that, in the event that right is eroded in the federal law. Again, take that with a grain of salt. We want to make sure we can preserve what we have, said Labor Federation leader Lorena Gonzalez. We're going to look her up at some point in time. Under Biden's administration, the NLRB's director has taken more aggressive action to enforce laws that require employers to bargain in good faith and prohibit retaliation. Good faith, keep that in. We're definitely putting a note in that one. Good faith, right? Let's go ahead and let's get that going. Good faith as a reminder. Good faith. All right. So I'm gonna make that as a reminder. In good faith, prohibit retaliation and taking a series of legal positions favorable to organizing workers. They include the John Logan Professor and chairperson of labor and employment studies in San Francisco State University. Another left-leaning rag, very much socialist and Marxist in all its approach. The most important action of the board in the Biden 2023 established new standards on when employees must bargain with unions without a represented election. If a majority of employees vote to unionize, employers must recognize the bargaining of the union or else seek an election within 14 days, right? So that's kind of like a little bit of the backdrop. Here is what Amazon, issues at Amazon. Already companies have been resisting the decision. Amazon workers are striking in part to try to force the company to bargain with some of its subcontractors. All right, keep that word, right? Subcontractors. Subcontractors. Let's go ahead and keep a note in that one. Subcontractors. Okay, so there's partial truth in this article. They cite the Los Angeles Regional NLRB directors August 2024, finding that the e-commerce giant was a joint employer of a group of delivery drivers who work with nationwide network of contractors. Keep that in mind, right? Calls delivery service partners. That means that finding holds Amazon legally responsible for the wages, working condition, and treatment of the subcontracted workers. Wait a minute. Let's go back there. Hold on. Let's reread that and get a clarity. Of a group of delivery drivers who work for nationwide network of contractors, the company calls delivery service partners. That means that the finding holds Amazon legally responsible for the wages, working conditions, and treatment of subcontracted workers. If the determination withstanding lengthy legal challenges, that could open the door for workers to bargain directly with Amazon. The regional director's findings stemmed from the group of Palmdale drivers who work for a contractor, battle-tested strategies, who had become the first Amazon delivery drivers in the country to unionize in April of 2023. Amazon ended its contract. Keep a pin in that. Right? Amazon ended its contract with the battle-tested retaliation of the Teamsters claimed that the union drive. Amazon denied that, saying it cut the contract over repeated breaches of the delivery company. The regional director dismissed the retaliation claim. But the regulator said that the Amazon and battle-tested failed to negotiate with drivers' union on working conditions, including the effects of the contract, termination on the drivers' jobs. In September, the agency filed a complaint before the labor board trying to force Amazon to bargain. The larger company in turn sued NLRB director on the board in federal court, seeking to halt any order to bargain and arguing that the board itself is unconstitutional. Whether larger companies should be considered employers of workers, or their contractors is an unsettled area. A federal labor law that has been repeatedly reversed by different labor relations boards since the Obama administration is another instance in which the current board made it easier to unionize workers, but a new board under Trump could very well reverse this decision, which I personally agree with. Okay, so this is a pretty lengthy article. I'm not going to get all the way into it. I sure as hell don't give a rat's ass about the lefty Starbucks organization. I only drink their coffee in extreme emergencies. Most of the time I find that their beans are burnt and taste like shit. Anyways, but that's my opinion, and you know what they say about opinions. They're like assholes. Everybody's got one, and they all stink. Now here's another spin on this. This is this is the right leaning. So let's go into Fox. Let's see if I can get this opened up here. Hold on. See if I can get that over. Sorry, I'm just we'll take care of this in editing. I got a horrible shadow on my face. Didn't even see that. Let's see if I can grab this video real quick. We'll do some post editing stuff here. Yeah, we're definitely going to do some serious editing here. Hopefully we can get in here. All right, now that I figured out this fiasco, let's go ahead and restart this. So this is the flip side of that. This is the right-leaning Fox. Let's get...
Teamsters Union represents around 10,000 Amazon workers. They are on strike. One warehouse in San Francisco is affected, along with 6 delivery stations spread across the country. The union wants more money for delivery drivers, and they accuse Amazon of not showing respect for workers. It's the timing of the strike that gets to me, right before Christmas. It's hard to respect union members when they inflict maximum pain on Amazon.
Okay, so this is where I was saying we put a pin in the good faith. Do you think the union was operating in good faith, right? Doing a strike at the height of the Christmas season, right? You got to really, really think about like what is being written and what is being told to you in some of these left-leaning rags. This is the part of the news that really disgusts me, and this is part of the news of why MSNBC and CNN are basically failing. I mean, the MSNBC is being sold. CNN's reduced their pay for a lot of the individuals that are reporting this garbage. So take the news with a grain of salt, right? Both sides. However, because there are two sides there, well, actually, in recovery, they say something along the lines as there's three versions of the truth. There's their truth, there's your truth, and then there's the truth, right? God's truth. Anyways, let's continue on. Operating in good faith, right? So there's something else in here that we're gonna have to take note of as well. So, and I think that was the subcontractor. So let's keep going.
And its customers. Millions of families look for their gifts in those Amazon boxes, and some are going to be disappointed. This strike is just plain nasty. Granted, a union needs leverage. You have to lay on the pressure to force an employer to give in and pay up. But holding up Christmas gifts is, for me, a bridge too far. We don't know how effective this strike's going to be. If all 10,000 teachers do go on strike, it'll only be a tiny fraction of the one.
So at this point in time, the unions are basically the Grinch that stole Christmas, right? They're saying that we're going to do this strike in the middle of Christmas. We're not going to have people working. This is the entitlement attitude that the unions give. Don't get me wrong. There's a place for unions. I don't hate on unions. However, this kind of bullshit, these kind of tactics really don't paint unions in a good light. Unions for the most part, they're like politicians, especially the ones that are sitting at the head of these unions. They're cashing in. I mean, if you consider just the California union, right? There's probably over 80,000, maybe more than that. I'm using these conservative estimates of and they're paying each paying $100 a month for unions, but they're also adding a service fee for people who aren't in the union, right? They charge like a $35 or $40 like service fees. We could definitely check that. But these are people who aren't operating within the union, right? Who refuse to pay the union dues. Now, I don't know if there was some legal things going on in the past. It's just happened so long ago. Memory doesn't serve. But that may have been washed, that $35, $40 union fee or service fee or whatever the fuck charge that is. Anyways, it has nothing to do with the story. I'm just going off on a tangent here. But all of this stuff can be researched and could be corrected. So leave your comments down in the comments section. I'm interested to know what your take on all of this shit is. I mean, this is how we begin the conversation, start talking about it. Okay, so he's talking about Grinch. So let's continue on.
1.5 million Amazon workers worldwide. The effects may be minimal, we shall see. But deliberately hurting ordinary people at this particular time of year leaves a bad taste in your mouth. The union demands respect, but it's hard to respect anyone who goes out of their way to upset their fellow Americans. The big picture here is that Amazon is fighting unionization. Management wants to keep control of the business. They want to keep the union out. This strike will not resolve that fight, but it will show a union that's prepared to interfere with your Christmas. I hope they lose.
All right, so that was that guy's opinion, which necessarily isn't a bad opinion. Again, a second point that I wanted to talk to you about. Here's the Hill, right? A strike is a global effort, right? They're trying to socialize and unionize and Marxicize. I'll coin that term, Marxicize. Why are Amazon workers on strike? Well, they basically say that Jeff Bezos is unfair. However, as I was researching this information, I came across see if I can find it. Came across that most of which of Amazon's drivers are considered a DSP. Now, what's a DSP, you ask? A DSP is a delivery service partner, which is a contractor. The contractor, basically Amazon, and by the way, FedEx and I think UPS even operate under this type of delivery. And the reason why they do this is because there have been issues in the past with the postal service and other like FedEx and UPS just not being able to fulfill your demands when ordering from Amazon. Don't worry, I order from Amazon too. I'm just as guilty. So, I digress. Let's keep going. So, the delivery service partners, these are contractors, kind of like how Uber did it. They had contractors, right? Until the union got involved saying, oh, we got to get a better cut. We got to get better, this is all negotiation. This all has to do in the negotiations of the contract. So, Amazon purchases a contract company or gets into a contract with the company. They say, all right, we're going to provide the drivers. Amazon basically provides everything else, right? This is entrepreneurship. This is capitalism at its best. The contractor, and it's not just one individual driver. Essentially, what it is either smaller companies that have drivers available, basically people, live bodies, right? That they pay almost in the effort, kind of like a manhunter or a headhunter for purchasing, finding people to work jobs and stuff like that. Anyways, again, it's like I'm trying to make my point here, but I keep going off on these like side leaning tangents. So with that being said, so essentially Amazon contracts a company that has live bodies to run their equipment. The union says that, oh, you got to pay these guys insurance and health insurance and all that other good stuff. Well, what ends up happening is that in one example, Amazon had a company in Southern California. I think it was somewhere out there in Palm Springs, right? The organization, the contractor, right? Amazon hired a contractor. They hired the employees below them. So the subcontractees, they wanted to unionize. Guess what Amazon did? They ended the contract, right? Whatever the legalese is and whatever legal battles are going on right now is we don't need to concern ourselves with that. What's happening is that as soon as they began to unionize, they tried to increase the cost to Amazon. Amazon basically cut the cord and said, go away. And so who ended up holding the bag, right? The individual drivers who no longer have a job. This is what socialism and Marxism and these ideas of saying, oh, we can make a better community and we can make a better way of living and everybody gets the equal amount of outcome and everything will be utopia and all this other stuff. However, socialism doesn't work because ultimately capitalism is where the individual ends up making their money, right? It's all about the hustle. It's about meritocracy. It's about doing for you, putting your own food on the table. And the minute the unions and politics and everybody else starts to get involved, they really start to mess with that ability to put food on the table, and then pissing off the rest of the American citizens in the process. Again, there are they're back in the 20s and 30s and whatnot when labor was cheap and they were hiring 10-year-old kids to work salt mines and whatever the fuck else and foundries and so on and so forth. Yeah, maybe unions where it will add a place. However, today there's enough laws in there. I guess kind of what I'm getting to is that over the years, as people became more entitled, things started to become more expensive, and the more things became more expensive, the more unaffordable to the middle class it became. And now people are struggling to put food on the table. People are struggling to even find jobs, even though there's hundreds of jobs out there, but they're minimum paying jobs. And then when the politics got involved, when California increased its minimum wage, it shut down companies, right? Entire companies just got the fuck out of California, shut down stores. Then politics got involved with reducing penalties for criminals. And then you had like companies like Nike and Denny's and whatnot moving out of Oakland because shoplifting and theft was just ridiculously out of control, right? These are the people that we're putting into office that are making these stupid fucking rules. That's the fucking problem. You know, if I was going to blame anybody, I'm not going to blame the politicians for being greedy. It's almost like you can't change the dog for being a dog. It's like a dog is going to shit on the carpet until you train them. You being. So politicians are going to shit all over your carpet and they're going to leave you to clean up the mess, right? Unfortunately, that mess comes in the form of tax dollars. And every fucking year, we Californians, and I include myself in that bucket, we Californians continue to vote in these stupid ass fucking legislatures who are lining their pockets and helping their special interest buddies. When is California going to get fucking tired of this shit? Ugh. Look, I just hate this fucking nonsense. Yeah, I went on a fucking rant. Anyways, let's continue on. Just a few more minutes here. This fucking video is getting a little long. However, just a reminder, a few years ago, it was about pandemic era. They wanted to unionize those fucking gig workers for the Ubers and the Lyfts and whatnot. And look what happened. Look what happened there. Their prices got exorbitantly more expensive. You know what happened? I don't even use Uber unless it's a fucking emergency now, right? And it was just really convenient. I mean, in my own admission, it's really convenient to take an Uber to a bar, a joint, go sing some karaoke, get completely plastered, and take an Uber back home. Fuck that. Now it's gonna cost me about $100 to do a 12-mile ride, you know, to get shit faced before I even get shit faced. It's like, this is bullshit. So I stopped getting shit faced. Stopped going to my favorite bars. Stopped singing karaoke. Right? Kind of sucks. I'm not gonna sit there. I know the first world problems. Yeah, I get it. But you know what? Life was a little bit funner. Even 30 years ago, right? Life was a little bit funner. Now it's like everybody's struggling, including myself, to put fucking eggs in a frying pan. It's fucking bullshit, right? And yet, coming back to what I said just a few minutes ago, it's like we, the Californians, continue to, and I don't care if you're right leaning or left leaning, start paying attention to your fucking government and look at these assholes that we continue to put in, right? I don't like any of them. And I'm very, very, very leery of the fucking Republicans, or the ones that call themselves Republicans in our legislature, right? In our state senate. I'm just really leery of all these assholes because they're all fucking they're all getting paid and they're fucking kowtowing to the fucking special interests. All right, so I went a little long. I'm probably getting a little long in the tooth. I'm kind of getting old. I'm starting to sound like I cracked myself up there. I'm starting to sound like my fucking grandfather. Old fucking bastard. Hey, Sonny, back in the day, life was a hell of a lot more funner. Anyways, I'm just going to continue on here. And what am I trying to do here? Oh, that's right. Shameless plug. Simping ain't easy. 12 steps to embracing common sense and rejecting stupidity. Great New Year's Eve gift. Go ahead, it's on all platforms. I'll see you guys in the next video. Love you, mean it.